This story is about making things right. It begins with Corey Harris, a Michigan man whose bizarre encounter with the legal system gained viral attention on social media. Harris became infamous after he joined a virtual court hearing via Zoom for a traffic-related offense. The issue at hand? He was attending a court hearing for driving a vehicle with expired license plates and a suspended license. But the kicker was that he had called into the hearing while behind the wheel of a car. This action alone was enough to raise eyebrows, but as you're about to see, the situation became even more complicated. Just watch how the judge watches in total disbelief once the defendant appears on video.
Pittsfield Township.
Assistant Public Defender Natalie Tate for Mr. Harris, who should be present via Zoom.
Mr. Harris, are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually. So just give me 1 second. I'm parking right now.
Great. You stationary?
I'm pulling in right now at this second. Yes, I am.
All right. What are we doing?
Your Honor, we are respectfully requesting an adjournment in this matter, up possibly 2 to 4 weeks if the court would allow.
Okay. So maybe I don't understand something. This is a driving while license suspended,
That is correct, Your Honor.
and he was just driving, and he didn't have a license.
Is with the charges, Your Honor, yes.
No, I'm looking at his
Yes.
record. He doesn't have a license. He's suspended and he's just driving.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Hello?
1 minute, Mr. Harris.
I don't even know why he would do that. So defendant's bond is revoked in this matter. Defendant is to turn himself into the Washington County Jail by 6 p.m. today. Failure to turn himself in will result in a bench warrant with no bond. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Harris, I'll be giving you a call.
As you just heard, Harris didn't just have a suspended license. He had never even possessed a valid driver's license in the first place, in Michigan or in any other state. This gets pretty complicated, so let's break it down. His legal troubles can be traced back to 2021, when his driving privileges were suspended for unpaid child support. In Michigan, as in many states, failure to meet child support obligations can result in a driver's license suspension. However, in the case of Harris, while his driving privileges were technically suspended, Harris had never actually been issued a valid driver's license to suspend. So how did you wind up with a suspended license if you don't actually have one? Well, Michigan law still applies a suspension to someone who doesn't hold a license, ensuring that if they attempt to obtain one, the suspension would be flagged, preventing the issuance of a valid license until the situation is resolved. For Harris, his unpaid child support led to this penalty being levied against him, and though his driving privileges were suspended, the suspension didn't affect an actual license. Because remember, he never had a license. Adding to the confusion, a new set of clean slate laws were enacted in Michigan later in 2021, aimed at lifting various types of license suspensions, including those for unpaid child support. These laws were intended to give people a chance to regain their ability to drive legally once they had settled their outstanding obligations. Harris, under this new legislation, became eligible to have his driving privileges reinstated. But first he needed to settle any related court fees, file the appropriate paperwork, and then follow through with the Department of Motor Vehicles to fully restore his driving privileges. But as the judge noted here, Harris didn't follow through with this process. Thus, the suspension was still in force. So when Harris was pulled over for driving with expired license plates, the officer asked him for his driver's license, which Harris was unable to provide. When the officer checked his record, it never said he didn't have a license, it only indicated his license was suspended. So Harris was charged with driving on a suspended license. And that's how he wound up in court appearing before Judge Simpson. For some odd reason, Harris seemed unaware of the irony of logging into the virtual Zoom hearing while he was driving. Especially since he was in court for a suspended license. Once the judge saw what he was doing, Harris found himself in deeper legal trouble. Not only was he once again facing charges for driving while suspended, but the absurdity of attending a court hearing regarding a traffic violation while actively driving sparked widespread ridicule on social media. Things took an even more bizarre turn when Harris began defending himself publicly, claiming that he had paid his child support and therefore the suspension of his driving privileges should have been lifted. But as previously mentioned, Harris hadn't completed the paperwork or paid the necessary fees to officially remove the suspension. The judge also noted that Harris had repeatedly renewed his Michigan state ID over the years, and this was added proof he did not have a license. Because in the state of Michigan, a person cannot hold both a state ID and a driver's license simultaneously. This indicated that Harris had been aware he wasn't in possession of a valid license all along, even though he claimed he did not know. But as Harris continued to get ridiculed on social media, this story took a strange twist. Harris began the process of applying for a driver's license in the months following his viral Zoom court hearing. He eventually completed the necessary steps to obtain a driver's permit, and later he officially became a licensed driver. By the time Harris returned to court, his legal standing had dramatically shifted. He now held a valid driver's license, and as a result, his misdemeanor charge for driving on a suspended license could potentially be reduced to a civil infraction. His lawyer commended him for his perseverance despite the public ridicule and embarrassment. And to be quite honest, we're actually happy for the guy as well. Slingshots can be fun when used the way they were intended. Just ask any kid. But firing marbles at a police car is not only foolish, it will get you busted, even at night. That's what one foolish individual found out when he started slinging marbles at police in Santa Ana, California at 10:45 p.m. At the time, they were performing a felony traffic stop and already had a helicopter in the area. While he didn't hit any officers, he did manage to smash the rear window of a patrol car. The helicopter then used infrared cameras to locate 3 suspects in a nearby backyard. While all 3 people were detained, they wound up arresting one suspect and booking him on felony charges. And while you might expect this person to be a teenager, he was actually a 37-year-old adult. Clearly, he should have left the slingshot in the kid's room where it belonged.